If you were to watch no more than the first 20 seconds of this video, I can sum up why Jeff Kent should be in the Hall of Fame with one sentence. He hit more home runs at his position than anyone else in the history of the sport, and second place isn't even close. Kent was one of the greatest hitting second basemen of all time, and yet, he sees himself outside of the Baseball Hall of Fame. He's on the Veterans Committee this year, so that can change as soon as next month. With that being said, just how good was he, and why hasn't he been inducted? Jeff Kent was a second baseman who played in Major League Baseball for 17 seasons from 1992 to 2008. He played for 6 teams, but spent the most time with the San Francisco Giants. In his career, Kent played in nearly 2,300 games and came to the plate over 9,500 times. He slashed .290 with a .356 on base and .500 slugging for an .855 OPS and 123 adjusted OPS. He has over 2,450 hits, which includes nearly 1,000 extra base hits, over 1,500 runs batted in, over 1,300 runs scored, recorded over 4,200 total bases, reached base nearly 3,400 times, and earned 55.4 WAR. He's a 5-time All-Star, 4-time Silver Slugger Award winner, and received MVP votes in 7 seasons. That includes winning the National League MVP award in 2000. Along with those stats, Kent also hit 377 career home runs, which is, again, the most of any second baseman. I'll go more into detail about the home runs later. Many of his numbers speak for themselves. You don't nearly have 1,000 extra base hits by accident. Although, just how good was Jeff Kent when compared to players during his era, as well as players all time? During his career, from 1992 to 2008, Kent ranked inside the top 5 in hits and extra base hits, top 10 in total bases and RBIs, top 20 in times on base and runs scored, and top 25 in WAR. Among 40 players with at least 7,500 plate appearances in that span, he ranks 21st in both OPS and adjusted OPS. If we look strictly at second baseman, Kent was either first or second in all of the mentioned counting stats. Here's the full list for those curious, and yes, he was first in WAR. Among 18 second basemen during that stretch with at least 5,000 plate appearances, Kent is unsurprisingly first in OPS and adjusted OPS. Many of those placements are impressive, but not surprising since it covers Kent's entire career. What if we looked at just his prime? In the 10-year span from 1997 to 2006, Kent ranks inside the top 10 in RBIs and extra base hits, top 15 in total bases and hits, and top 25 in times on base and runs scored. During this 10-year stretch, there are 66 players with at least 5,000 plate appearances. Of that group, Kent is 22nd in OPS and 20th in adjusted OPS. Just like before, if we look at second baseman, he's either first or second in all of the categories, with the exception of runs scored, where he ranks third. I might add, there was more than a 10-point difference for second place in WAR for second baseman during that stretch. Additionally, of the 24 second basemen here, with at least 3,000 plate appearances, Kent is once again first in OPS and adjusted OPS. There were good second basemen during this span, and then there was Jeff Kent, lapping everybody else. All of that was in comparison to players during his generation. How good was he when compared to everyone in baseball history? Throughout the history of Major League Baseball, Jeff Kent ranks inside the top 50 in extra base hits, top 60 in RBIs, top 70 in total bases, top 125 in hits and runs scored, top 130 in times on base, and top 165 in WAR among position players. Among 166 players with at least 9,000 plate appearances, Kent ranks 49th in OPS and 78th in adjusted OPS. If we decrease the minimum threshold to 7,500 plate appearances, in which there's been 367 players to achieve that, Kent ranks 85th in OPS and 144th in adjusted OPS. Looking at just second baseman all time, Kent ranks inside the top 5 in extra base hits and RBIs, top 10 in total bases, top 15 in hits, runs scored, and times on base, and top 20 in WAR. Of the 133 second basemen with 5,000 or more plate appearances, Kent is 4th in OPS and 13th in adjusted OPS. By the way, if we look strictly at second basemen in the integration era, which is 1947 the present day, Kent ranks inside the top 10 in every single stat mentioned, with the exception of WAR, where he's 12th. Here's the full breakdown for those curious. That was a lot said, so to summarize everything so far, Jeff Kent was one of the best hitters in baseball during his time in the league. He was arguably the best second baseman around during his career, at absolute worst, a very close second. During his prime, he was a top 20 player in Major League Baseball, being among the best hitters out there. For second baseman, he was the clear-cut best. His WAR, OPS, and adjusted OPS were all significantly higher than everyone else at his position. Let's also not forget the MVP award he won. All time, Kent is around the top 150 player, as he's around that number for adjusted OPS and WAR. He was, of course, a much better producer of stats, being inside the top 125 in most statistics, including several in the top 75. In comparison to those at his position, he's around the top 15 second baseman of all time, but if we look at players since the end of World War II, he's absolutely top 10. Only a few throughout history did more with the bat than Jeff Kent did. With all that being said, I've yet to discuss perhaps the most important aspect of his career, home runs. Jeff Kent was the best home run hitting second baseman ever, and nobody is touching his record for a long time. As mentioned before, Kent has 377 career home runs. Not only is that the most for a primary second baseman, he's just one of 3 to hit 300. The other 2 are Robinson Cano, a known PED user, and Hall of Famer Rogers Hornsby, whose career ended 90 years ago. Other than Cano and Hornsby, there are only 2 second basemen within 100 home runs of Kent. Those 2 are Hall of Famer Craig Biggio and Hall of Famer Ryne Sandberg. Not only is he number 1, nobody currently active is threatening to break Kent's record anytime soon. As of 2025, there are 2 primary second basemen to hit half the home runs Kent did. Those 2 are Jose Altuve and Marcus Semien, who both are still over 120 homers away from Kent's total. For what it's worth, Altuve and Semien are both turning 36 years old in 2026. Even if both played until age 40, they would need to average 25 home runs a season to pass Kent. The most home runs by a second baseman under 30 years old is 157 from Ozzie Albies. Albies, who turns 29 this upcoming January, would need to average 22 home runs a season over the next 10 years to tie Kent's mark. So, why hasn't Kent been elected into Cooperstown yet? It has to do with the era he played in and overall numbers compared to others in the Hall of Fame. First off, Jeff Kent played the majority of his career in the hitter-friendliest period in Major League Baseball history, the steroid era. One might argue that while Kent did hit a lot of home runs, so did everyone else. For example, if we look at the 10-year span from 1997 to 2006 mentioned earlier, Kent's 267 home runs during that time doesn't even crack the top 20. There are several non-Hall of Famers that hit a similar number of home runs in that stretch. Additionally, while 377 home runs is a lot, it pales in comparison to other sluggers in the Hall of Fame. Long story short, for someone that leans on his home run total, one could argue 377 is nothing special. There are a ton of players with more home runs that aren't in the Hall. In my opinion, those points are completely irrelevant because it doesn't take into account his position. Sure, 377 home runs isn't Hall of Fame level for a slugger, But that's only true for other positions. There are tons of first basemen and outfielders that hit that many home runs, but there's only one second baseman in the history of baseball to hit that many. Also consider the fact that only 2 other second basemen during the steroid era came within 100 home runs of Kent. Speaking of the steroid era, you should know that during a period where a large percentage of players were taking PEDs, Jeff Kent stayed clean. He never failed a drug test and was never named in the Mitchell report. As a matter of fact, he actually vocally opposed steroid use. In a 2005 interview, he said he was disappointed there wasn't a solid plan to counter PEDs, stating baseball needed to be clean. He echoed that sentiment in 2009, saying he was embarrassed of the steroid era. One last thing, I know someone's going to mention this, but one other reason why Kent hasn't been enshrined yet has to do with the character clause. This could be its own video, but to make a very, very long story short, he wasn't the most well-liked player by teammates or media alike. Despite any criticism, Jeff Kent absolutely needs to be elected into the Hall of Fame. He was one of the best players during his era, the overall greatest home run hitting second baseman of all time, and nobody, and I mean nobody at his position, is going to break his record anytime soon.